not gonna show. That's the difference.
Have to go around.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
At your house?
Noble Middle School.
Everyone all set? Welcome everyone to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of November 15th, 2011. Roll call. Everyone's here. Keith, town manager on vacation. Would you all join me in pledge allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can't afford one. Approval of minutes, November 1st, 2011.
I move that we approve the minutes of November 1st as they have been presented to us.
Second. Discussion? All in
proposal that he made for his Eagle Scout badge. And he would like to get going on it because the cold weather's coming, and I guess he has to have this done by January. Is that, no,
No, I just would like to get started on it.
that's why you should
Could you
step
stand
up. Yeah.
so we can see you? Good man. And your name is?
Ryan? Ryan Gick.
Ryan.
Ryan. Okay, Ryan Good. Good.
Gick.
You wanna make a presentation to us while you're here?
I'm Ryan Gick.
You can come to the podium if you like. I'll be nervous.
I'm Ryan Gick. I'm a Life Scout with Troop 777 from Barrington, New Hampshire. I live here in Berwick at 157 Rochester Street. Proposing to work on Bullard Cemetery over on the corner of 236 and Berwick Street over there. I've talked with Mr. LaPierre, and he stated that he has done work on it in the past, but that I should talk with you to get your approval, so I can get started and start working on that. I've already walked through a couple times just to look at it, and there are approximately 122 headstones that are either fallen over or the tops have broken off, or both, in many cases. So I'd like to work on that. I'll go back in this spring to check again. Probably more will fall over the winter. So I'd like to work on that. There are also some bushes need to be trimmed back, as those are making some of the headstones fall over. And there's one tree that is very dead that needs to come down. So that would also be part of my project. I've talked with Mrs. Buckman as well, and she's I've asked her if there's a map or anything of cemetery, stating where the different people are buried and their names and stuff, and she said that she did not know of any, and that could also be part of my project. Would be mapping out the different headstones and creating a map that I would then give back to the town for further use in future years. I won't need any funds for this, because I'm required to, as part of my Eagle project, to get funds either through donations from other people or through fundraisers. So, hope you think this is a great idea, 'cause I do.
Will you have any type of supervision at all, or?
Yes, I have to have 2 adults there at all times, and most likely I'll have many more.
Okay, when you're talking about cutting down trees, I would
Yes,
not want
I
people
have
alone.
one of my fellow scouts, well, older scouts, he's graduated from college, that was his major, and I would probably use him.
Brian Sikota, would you, Tony, would you have any idea of any type of a map for what he's asking?
I'm thinking we may have a list of the, and I may,
Mhm.
I'm not positive, I may have a list of the veterans who are there.
Okay,
On the map, I'm not sure, but
I have,
I can try to find out.
You think you can find one, Marcia?
well, no, but I have the cemetery book at home if I can find it. It won't tell where their lots are, but it gives a list of people up to that point, and I think it was 1920s or 30s. But it was, there's some slaves buried there too, and a book was written on Black Sarah.
Like Sarah.
They're outside the cemetery,
Oh, they are?
they're outside the cemetery. Remember?
But I'll see if I have that book too, I'll see if I can find that for you.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ordinarily, this would have been a agenda item, however, it was kind of late breaking, the end of last week. And Friday was a holiday, as you all know, and Keith went on vacation, so, I'm gonna ask the board's indulgence. I'll obviously, this young man's running out of time with good weather. And he'd like to get started on it as soon as possible. Would any of my colleagues have a problem with approving this tonight without it not being an agenda item?
I think it's a great project, and
Yeah,
it's
so do
well
I.
worthy of the effort you put into it.
No
And
problem
it
at all.
certainly will be appreciated by those who have relatives that live in town or in the area. You know, it's nice to see a young person do some good. It's encouraging, it really is. And I appreciate your efforts. I think it's a very nice gesture on your part. A lot of work to it too. The only thing I would suggest on the broken stone, you might wanna get in contact with somebody that deals with monuments to see if there is a product that can be used to put those stones together that's long lasting. There are some epoxy materials that can be used for that purpose. And I'm not trying to load you up with all kinds of work, but that would be good, because I understand that there are some broken ones. And if they could be repaired, that would be even that much nicer, so.
Does anyone in the audience have any problem with this not being an agenda item and approving this tonight? Okay, I'll take a motion to approving the good work.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve him to go ahead and do whatever he deems necessary in there and get it cleaned up.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion on it? All in favor? Thank you, Ryan. And that's it for communications, Suzanne?
I know it.
Marcia, did you get a chance to look at the are you all set with that?
No?
Okay.
I move to approve, town warrant number 1218 in the amount of $111,942.23. Also, town warrant number 1219 in the amount of $581,582.36. And lastly, water warrant number W1219 in the amount of $8,606.26.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Report of committees, do you have anything, Bob?
Yes, I do. At the last meeting, I was unable to provide names for the committees to take a look at properties that the town owns that generally do not have buildings on them. And there's quite a long listing. Some are obvious. Lord Cemetery is one of those listed. However, in considering the committee, what I tried to do was find folks who have some expertise in the areas that I'm really looking for. And so therefore, I've asked department heads to furnish names, and we're in the process of securing, or we have secured those names. I have 2, 4, 6 names plus myself. However, beyond that, I'm looking toward the University of New Hampshire and possibly the University of Maine forestry departments to do some mapping and that kind of thing. Again, this whole project should not be a burden to the town financially, and that's my ultimate goal. But I'll start with the first. Drew Conroy has agreed. Drew is a professor at the University of New Hampshire in animal sciences. because he has that connection, with the university, you know, he might very well be able to encourage the forestry department to have 2 or 3 students, put together a plan of some properties. Tom Wright is with the, planning board as an alternate, and, Tom is pretty well versed in state government as well as local government, and I think his advice and information would be ideal. Jay Wheeler is a forestry person, he's been in the business for a long time, so he has that kind of background, and again, most of this property has some form of tree growth on it, whether it's mature timber or whether it's literally brush. I mean, there is some kind of vegetation on it. And so, again, that he would be a real asset to the committee. Warren Clement is representing the library, and one of the things that, the reason I looked at Warren is the fact that he's been active here in the community, but equally as important as possible, the library could use, if we do walking paths as an example, in that Penny Pond area, it's conceivable that that could be tied together, is what I'm saying. And Oscar Stone is very well versed in the properties in the community, and so therefore I feel that he's an asset, because we want to include people who live as abutters to that property on Dobson Street, Wilson Street, and, not Wilson, I'm sorry, Old Pine Hill. There's some new houses that back of their property abuts this piece. And also on Sullivan Street, there's 3 or 4 houses that are tied into that general area. There are some issues that we've got to, some hurdles, I guess you want to call it. The State Department of Environmental Protection threw at us, but that's, you know, we'll never know unless we ask. That's the bottom line. Cindy Flores was recommended by the Recreation Department, and that would fit in well using that area for trails and some of our older citizens, and I won't mention any names, but they're sitting at this table, have skated there.
Are you ready to die?
But you know, it's one of those things, that Penny Pond is a fairly sizable area, but what has happened over the years, that is typical of most shallow ponds. Brush, undergrowth, all of that sort of thing kind of fills in. And pretty soon, you have nothing but a piece of wetland, basically. There are some constraints put on that property. One of the things we have to do is to go to the Department of Environmental Protection and get their blessing to do whatever is recommended by the committee. And hopefully Beth O'Connor can help us with that. That would be a gesture on her part. So if you take a look at the committee, it's made up of a wide variety of people, and the purpose is to try to bring together a group that is going to be effective. And, you know, politics to one side, this is a community project. It should be treated as a community project. It should be a volunteer project. And that's the way I'm treating it. So we have a fairly sizable committee. However, I recommend those names. And there may possibly be somebody from the Salmon Falls Watershed Group. That's a strong possibility. I've approached them because we're part of that district. You know, the Salmon Falls River splits the two states, one of the things that was looked at is the property of the old pumping station being utilized in a more effective way than just a standing building that's deteriorating over the years. So, those are the names that I would present, and I would hope that the board would go along with them. I think it's a diversified committee. I think it would be effective. If there are any questions from the audience, I'd be glad to do what I can to answer them. This is not a short-term project, it's gonna take some time. You don't rush the state, even though they rush it when they want the taxes. It's just one of those things. So there's a lot of communication that has to go on. And I think that's healthy for the community. So, it's up to the board at this stage.
This is a new committee, so I would entertain a couple of questions if there are any. Okay?
Where is the old pumping station?
I'm sorry,
The old pumping station, where is that
it's out
located?
here on Rochester Street, just before, right across from the highway line. It's
That's the old pumping station?
that's the old pumping station. The new one is down further on the left.
On the right.
He means the
Well,
water
You
plant.
know, sometimes if you're.
Across the street from your house.
Confused, but, all right, it's on the right, I'm sorry. It's beyond the Hall's roofing. Sam, it's just beyond Hall's roofing, on the right.
Is the old one.
That's the new one.
The new water treatment plant.
The old one is across from the town highway garage, right across
That
the
was,
street.
It's
I
almost
thought it was
across from
only
your
built a couple
house.
of years ago.
It's
So
almost across from your house.
What she's
Well,
confused with
a
is,
couple houses down.
may I? Yeah, you're confused. He said pumping station, he means the old water plant. It's that little building right across from the, yeah, we did build a new pump station, yeah, but it's the water plant. It's that little building across the street from the
But
public
he's
garage.
dealing with a different product, we're dealing with one.
Well, the pumping station is an issue, so I needed to,
Okay.
clarify that. So it's a water
It's
shed,
An old
a
water
building
treatment plant.
that used to supply the water from the river, filter it there and pump it up on the hill to the standpipe. And when the new station was built beyond Halls, that one was taken out of service. And it's just sitting there at this stage.
and you're thinking of doing something with it? Get
Well, it
going?
has access directly to the Salmon Falls River. There's a possibility there. Again, for recreational use, conceivably canoes or kayaks. If you go up beyond the bridge, further up on Rochester Street, you'll notice people park at the edge of the road and they put their canoes or rowboats
Yeah,
or
well,
whatever in.
they canoe and kayak and everything once a year all around my house. So we can make it even better.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll take a motion to establish this committee,
I move that we establish the
land use committee.
land use committee and appoint the members that are on it, or have been brought to us.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
Thank you, folks.
Okay.
And thank you, folks, who are here that will serve.
Yeah, thank you for
Appreciate it.
volunteering. Janet, do you know where the name is?
What happened to that? That's the new dive.
No, Derek was away, the military sent him away for a period of time. I haven't heard that he's back yet.
He's back, he was in today.
Oh, he was? Oh,
It's
all right.
So we can't see.
I get, that's all I'm asking, you know.
It's all set up.
It's all
around
set
the
up,
corner
and you can
there.
see it in the county.
Right.
Is Derek here? right here. Raise my hand before, but no, you are, sorry. Do you have any little update for us?
I'll talk to everybody. I don't wanna just talk to you all. Right now, what we have is the equipment we're purchasing. We wanna make sure we're buying the right equipment so that we can give the best content out to everybody here in Berwick. We're in the process of buying the speaker system in here, the mics, the cameras, the computers, everything that we need to operate and send the content out. Right now, the only thing you have is a little message board. That's because we have the department heads who want to put out messages to you. That's the only way we can get it out to you. The other thing that we're going to expect when we do have this operational is volunteers. We're looking at the high school, since they also have a media department up there, but not too many people want to seem to volunteer. So, when this does get going, there are going to be, volunteers that are going to help us. Videotaping the football games, basketball games, wrestling matches, everything like that is going to be volunteers. So, when that's happening, you're going to see a message, and hopefully people do volunteer.
If you don't have volunteers, it won't get done.
That's what we need. So, as you see right now, the committee we have is all volunteers. So we're trying to bust our butt to get it out to you. It's all money. We have the money now, so we're getting the equipment. So hopefully we can get more out to you all.
You got a time frame?
I just got the POs today to get the equipment. So we'll get it out probably tomorrow, so it matters how long Access AV gets to us. 22 what? Oh, Channel 22. I hope everybody saw that when it's on the website. It's also on Facebook. If you go on Facebook and you look up for BCTV, it is there also. So you can join up there and be friends and everything else with that. So I'm also trying to get a website for the channel, the TV program. So once that's developed, it'll be out there. So.
Yeah, is this from going on broadcast TV or only by cable?
Only cable.
So
Because
a lot of
it's-
us don't have it,
And that's the only way it's going out there is because it's Comcast. So when you see a bill, there's like 20, 30 cents that goes towards that bill. That's why we have it. It isn't because the town's paying for it, y'all are paying for it.
Are we gonna
Residents
get the
grow.
information some other way?
What's
Those
that?
Those that don't have cable, are we gonna get the same
You can check
information
the
some other way?
Berwick, you can check the Berwick website.
Yeah.
You can check, like I said, there's gonna be a Facebook.
Yep.
And I'm also gonna put out a website, a separate website for just the TV channel. Further down the line, if you look at like South Portland and there's other different communities, you can actually go on that website and click on certain pictures, videos, and stuff like that and watch it on the website. But that is going to be in the future. You gotta give us a little bit of time, so it's developing. Yes?
Thank you, first of all, for volunteering. Second, there's like 6 BCTVs already. So is there gonna be a link on the website that puts us to the correct one? Or
Which website?
the town's
The
website?
town has it where we just post it, and it's on the front page. We're gonna have probably a link, is that what you're talking about on the side, the left side?
Yeah, I'm looking at Facebook right now, there's like 6,
It
7
should say Berwick Community
BCTVs.
Television.
Okay.
So, if you look at that way, Berwick Community Television, you should be able to find it easier that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
After you do that, so at some point, once you videotape, so the cameras get put up and the things get videotaped, so they are saved somewhere.
Yes.
So at some point, you can link them to a site so people
Yes.
may be
Yep.
able to go
And
back.
that's just gonna be time, because
Okay.
we gotta find the people, we have an IT person, that person also has a job,
I know.
and it's difficult to get everybody here sometimes to get it done. So, like I said, we're trying to get it all done for everybody, but
Can
that's gonna take time.
I'd really love to give you my name, because right now I'm putting in 15 to 20 hours a week, and I
Yes.
think if I do it the way you're doing it, it's
Peg
gonna
Wheeler,
save,
right?
yeah, it's gonna save me a ton of time.
Yeah.
So I'd love to volunteer if it's gonna reduce the amount of time, because right now, what we're doing, we'll have to keep doing for people who wanna watch them on Facebook until we can link those videos to somewhere else, so I'd love to
Yep.
try and facilitate that.
That
so we can
website's
start.
gonna take a little bit, though.
Right, so, but I would love to hear about that.
Anything else?
You, Derek.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, much appreciated.
business, continue the land use committee discussion. We've already done that, I guess, right? Correct? We're already taking care of that.
Okay, I'd like to say, there's one piece of property on that list that we had.
Yeah.
Remember Janet, you and I talked about it, 30 old Route 4. Well, I
Yes,
checked,
yeah.
I checked with the assessors, the town no longer owns it,
Oh, really?
it's back into the owner's name.
Very
Oh,
good.
I know who.
Yeah, so
They
that,
do
so that
pick-
one you can kind of
pick
cross
up.
off, I went in and talked to the assessors.
They hadn't
about it.
changed that when I got the material from
No,
her.
they had one the other day and put a talk
Good.
about it.
Okay, next item, continued budget committee discussion. You all should have several different budget committees from a few towns. Has everyone had a chance to look at some of them? We don't have to decide anything tonight, it's just kind of continued discussion. So I'll just open it up to fairly brief discussion about it.
Well, I thought there was a wealth of information here, I don't know,
Yeah, there's a lot to go through, I didn't
yeah,
even
the
get through,
towns that I
get through it all myself.
I got through it, but the towns that I was looking at was the smaller ones. I wasn't, too impressed with the cities. I don't think we need cities, it's the power we want to, give them things.
Well, I for one think it should be elected.
Oh, I do too, very
That's
strongly.
my choice, of preference.
I think most towns are elected.
Well, it would appear to me that that would be a way of allowing actually the townspeople to make their choices. It gives the townspeople an opportunity. The process, there's one in particular that looks pretty good to me. I read them all, but I can't tell you which one it was. But one of them looked like it might be a good scenario. Maybe you want to tweak it a little bit and get input from the general public as well. But that would be my choice if I had a choice.
Well, I don't think it should be appointed. I mean, that is just not the way to go, in my opinion.
What's that?
I said, I don't believe it should be appointed. In my opinion, it's not the way to go.
It's like putting a fish in the barrel. You catch what you want.
Any other comments, citizens? I mean, we certainly have enough time to,
Yeah, I'm on the ballot for that.
right?
Personally, is there any opinions out there that somebody care to share? Yeah, fine.
Go ahead.
And I just ask if the board had considered meeting with one of the other towns around that does that, and with their budget committee to ask them what they did or what they've been through to build it, and what their successes are, their failures, might
We
short.
have those written right up.
So
The
they,
actual operation.
no, but I mean, have you met with the members, it's just to see what they, I would ask that you do that, I think it saves reinventing the wheel, they may have some thoughts about
It
what
sure
theirs.
does, and, the county budget committee, which was done
Right.
a number of years ago, I was on the committee that helped form that one in the legislature. In fact, it was York County delegation,
Yep.
I happened to be chair at the time, and, Mr. Ducabo, old Mr. Ducabo from District 9 was the ones that
Yep.
kind of crafted that one out. I
Yep.
had a lot of help from him, he was,
Anything else, colleagues? For tonight?
I say that's, these are mine.
Okay, we can mull over and talk to Keith about possibly changing.
I think it's a good suggestion.
Do you have another question?
I don't think so.
I didn't see South Road,
No,
did you?
York has one, not Berwick.
South Road had one.
York had one, but
Lebanon has one, North Berwick has one.
Lebanon
I
has one.
served on the Lebanon.
Lebanon has one?
Andrea used to serve there. So we could even.
Lebanon's kinda close to our size, I think, nowadays.
Actually, we're close to the South Berkeley, we got one, but not.
Right.
But York has a charter, so there's the comes in under the charter.
Okay, we'll take that under consideration, meeting with the area town.
But York also has a elected treasurer. Undermining the treasurer, she's been for years.
Give us a thought of, be a packet you can get Tom, you might like to meet with, we could add in Lebanon, I don't think we have Lebanon in this packet. do we?
No.
We could maybe ask Keith to get us some information on Lebanon. Can you make note of that, Janet? Okay, move on. Next item, board discussion, regarding Attorney General's letter dated October 24th, 2011. First thing that we need to decide as a board is if we want to, release this document to the, press and the public. My recommendation is that we do that.
I agree.
How does the other colleagues feel? Okay, I'll take the motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on it? All in favor? We can discuss it a little bit. Janet, do you have any discussion? Do you abstain?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Jim, you just said,
Do you have some copies?
I do.
Where copies are gonna be available free, at the town office, but we got a few just to circulate here tonight. Joe, could you, give one to the reporter and answer, and just let them pass them around? Like I said, there'll be no charge for it, it's a simple, attorney's opinion, not a lot of work involved in printing that. It's not like anyone has to research it, whether there's a fee. It won't be enough for everyone, but it'll be enough to just, I'll give you a couple
It's funny. Could be cold.
We had a couple of unanswered questions, and the attorney has answered those questions. One of the statements by the AG was about the timeline and how we advertise. In our attorney's opinion, I'll read it to everyone. I'm not gonna read the whole report, but he basically stated, in this case, the town exceeded these minimal requirements by advertising 3 times in the local newspaper several weeks prior to the expiration of the bids. Under these circumstances, people were given even greater notice and time to inspect the property and determine if they wanted to place a bid. Beyond the minimum standards in the statute, that only required notices to be published within the last 7 days. So he's saying that we actually went beyond the state statute. And then there was another issue of the code of ethics, I'll read that. The Attorney General's letter also made reference to the town's code of ethics adopted by the board back in April 2010. Given that there is no action that the town could take, even if this code of conduct was violated, I am not sure any further analysis is needed for the board's consideration. If you would like any further review or information, please feel free to contact me. So,
I don't believe that there's ever any question that the finance officer did everything legally. The town did nothing wrong. They went right by the law. That was not the problem. The problem was with this board. That's where the problem lay.
no, but these
And
are,
we should take the blame for it.
he's answering questions that were, and these are answers to questions from the AG's report.
I know what they are. I'm telling you, I've
Well,
read it
that's
3 times.
the point of this.
But what I'm saying is that we never said the town did anything illegal. With the actions of the board.
So we really
So
are.
about the only thing we have left, well, there's an issue with the town clerk, however, that's not really in our hands, that's with the Secretary of State. And then one last thing we need to clean up, I believe, is how, if we're gonna announce how many bids come in, are we gonna use a lockbox or something like that? We haven't decided that yet. And that'll pretty much put the whole.
I think that all will fall within the policy, packet that we have. That should be part of the policy. It does state very clearly in the letter that, they have to advertise twice within 7 days prior to the opening of the bid. And that's not difficult to do, it's just a matter of putting it in. I don't think anyone did it maliciously as far as the advertising is concerned. The fact that it was done 3 times kind of offsets that. However, it wasn't done 7 days, a total of 2 within 7 days prior to the bid opening. That would be cleaned up.
What do you think about that we advertise a couple of weeks in advance also,
You can do it
get a heads
anytime
up
you want,
early.
but you have to have 2
Right, I
within the
realize
7
that.
days. But you can advertise 30 days in advance if you want.
Yeah, because that gives people a chance to think about it, go look at it, whatever.
And as far as, not telling people how many bids come in, the past practice has been that we have. I'm not sure if there is a right to know issue there or not, but, once you mark that down, Janet, we'll have Keith put that one to bed for us. And we can decide tonight, or we can, if you want a table or whatever. I remember somebody mentioning having a, well, I guess that would tie in with the, we gotta know about the right to know law. We gotta have that first, before we think about a lockbox or something like that. So, we'll let Keith wrap that up when he gets back. He'll be back on Monday, by the way, for the audience. It's been controversial, I'll take a couple of brief questions. Because there is another public comment. Yes, Mr. Lou?
Peg Wheeler, and my question is, from the last paragraph, I actually have 2 questions. One that speaks to the specific language only prohibits a municipal officer. I would question some of the names on the property services as not being a relative but the municipal officer instead, which is a little shaky. But the last paragraph that says, even if that code of ethics is violated, there's nothing anybody can do. What's the difference between that code of ethics and the policy that we've just spent months and months redoing and talking about? So what happens if the board chooses to violate that policy? And do the same thing again?
Okay.
As with most policies, they're guidelines.
So in other words, it's an opportunity.
That we hope
Well,
It
we-
can be changed at any time by any sitting board of selectmen.
I'm being rather specific though, Jim. This was a code of ethics that people at that table put together. So, and you, according to this, I read this as the attorney feels that it quite potentially was violated, but there's no action that can be taken. What's the difference between the one you just put together now? I guess my feeling is, have we all just sat through an exercise of building a new policy to make people feel better, when really the same thing could happen next week, because it was the own policy, the policy of this board that was violated now? So what is the difference? What is the action taken if this policy that you just spent all this time putting together is violated? Nothing?
I would say a little bit different because the tax acquired policy will be run through the finance office, so there won't be as many people involved in it. So that probably has a chance of succeeding rather than just a general code of ethics.
Well, I think Eleanor's pointed out that there was nothing done wrong in that part of the business. It was the ultimate decision made at this table that was the problem. So, and I think there's some people who've taken a fall for this in other parts of this building that shouldn't have. Ultimately, it was the decision made at this table that most people in this town take issue with. And my issue is we've sat here for a long time listening to a policy be rewritten. And if it's people at the table who don't respect a policy they wrote once, why would it be different with this one?
The policy is more enforceable for employees, I guess, than it would be for elected officials.
That's not a very comforting answer.
I mean,
You're supposed to lead by example.
That's basically a fact. It's not a lot of teeth in it for elected officials. Yes?
Yeah, I got a question. Just Joe French.
French.
Joe French, live on Piper Hill. This code of conduct, if you 5 people made it, and then you file it, what'd you make it for? If you can't follow it, what are you making all these code of conducts and policies for if you 5 members don't follow them?
There's nothing the attorney.
Oh, he said, well,
that it was violated.
it could, he said, even if the code of conduct was violated, that's what he said.
If,
Could take if it was violated.
if,
Yeah, and everybody in this room thinks, not if, it was. So you people change your mind, why make them?
okay,
Do you think that we should add some teeth to it?
I don't see the point in having him, Eleanor. I have felt the whole time we sat here while this exercise went on, and I know you know how I feel, that the policy that was written, the intent was to prevent something like that from happening, and it did anyway. And I feel the same way with this one. The intent is, of everybody in this room who's so happy to see it done, is that it won't happen again. But this is exactly what I expected from Alan. This doesn't comment on whether it was right or wrong, because he's clearly saying, why should he bother? Because there's nothing anybody can do about it.
There's no way to enforce it.
So,
There's no way to enforce it at all. You're right.
You can now, that's why you have a recall.
yeah, well, we can now, that's correct.
understand one thing, the town attorney doesn't just work with the board of selectmen, he works with the entire town.
Yeah.
In this particular case, I beg to differ.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Everybody moving on. In the back, Mr.
Stolpe.
Like she's saying though, we spent so much time changing this policy for tax acquired properties. And every issue that you brought up, there's like 10 steps in that, every one of you voted 5-0. 5-0. On every one of those common sense things in that policy. Yet when this property was up for sale, not one of those 10 things occurred to any of you but one. It has no teeth. It needs teeth. So that can't ever happen again. It would have taken one vote by somebody that had that common sense up there, other than the vote we did have, and this would have not been a problem at all. It would have been 2-2 or not passed. We need some teeth in this.
Anyone else? Yes,
Mr. Doran,
Mr. Dorn.
I've sat through all these meetings here, where you guys went over that policy, and to make a policy where you have so many other issues in this town that need to be addressed, you wasted all that time on a policy that pretty much exempts the elected officials from any responsibility of their decisions ethically. Sounds like another example of you people wasting our time and tax dollars. That's all.
I'll say it one more time, I think this one, the tax acquired policy will be easier to enforce because it will be run through just one office.
Everybody should be held accountable when something's done like that, especially if you're the captain of the ship.
Everyone has.
What offices is run through? Lana Rochelle, what's it being run through before it gets to you?
The finance office. This is the tax,
Chief,
this is
you mean
the,
town
this is the
manager?
tax acquired
Town
policy
manager, you mean?
that we set up.
So it would go through the town manager?
Goes to the town manager.
Doesn't he do the finance and?
No, the finance office is set aside from the town manager's office.
It is a department, It is a department, but, yeah, but.
Okay,
See,
I'll take,
doesn't follow.
I'll take one more.
Just to follow up on the letter part of that, was you just said that Alan doesn't work just for you, he works for us. Yet you asked him just about the legality of the sale itself. Nobody asked him about the code of ethics and that
We
violation.
asked them about the concerns.
It doesn't say that.
Raised
Your
by
only
the
request was
raised
about the
by
legality
the
of the
AG.
sale. We
Not
all
the
know
sale.
it was legal.
What about the concern of us?
It was the-
He
was
stopped in
addressing-
his last paragraph and said, well, no consideration as long as the sale was legal, there's no point in me answering any more questions. Can we ask him about the violation of the code of ethics and our policy for sale of this type?
He's already answered it.
I don't think he has, Jim.
No,
It's not in here anyway.
No, he didn't answer.
Can we ask our attorney that question? You just said he works for us. Can we ask him that?
We'll speak to Keith, yeah. See-
Why are we speaking to Keith? I don't need Keith. That's me.
Can't just have anyone calling up the attorney.
Can we have Keith call the attorney and ask him the code ethics question?
We can ask him, I guess.
Why don't you write down the specific question, we'll give it to Keith, and ask him to call the attorney.
Well, I just did. There's so many code ethics violations in what happened, and you all agreed when you made your new policy, and you all agreed 5-0 every time one of them was listed, and yet you didn't follow that out of common sense.
There was a brand new policy. There was no policy beforehand.
I think
We voted on the policy that was existing and in place at the time.
But we have a code of ethics.
We're gonna move on. New business, mass gathering ordinance. This is, most of them, I don't know, maybe everyone doesn't know. This came on the ballot, how long ago was it? Brian, I know Brian Sinclair has been working on it. Was it 2 years ago? Do you remember, Gina? It's been at least 2 years. The town voted on it and voted it down.
I have the figures for the first of all. It was The people who voted for it was 1,044. And those who voted against the one at that time was 1,154. So there was a total of 2,198 votes on that particular item, and it failed by 110 votes. So that's the background on that. And after that, go ahead, Ellen.
Okay, I would just like to say that Brian and I worked on a mass gathering. We met with the police chief, the fire chief, code enforcement, planning board, town manager, and everybody else we could find to discuss it with. And we came up with a mass gathering ordinance. We got it from other towns. We had, I think, 7 other towns that we studied, and we thought we had it right down pat, the nitty gritty, you know, that no big thing could come in here and harm the town. Well, we took it to the planning board, and they put it in 2 pages actually. And I think they simplified it, and I think that was the reason that the one didn't pass before, because people was concerned they couldn't have a backyard barbecue, they couldn't have a wedding, they couldn't have this, and people was concerned about that. Well, the planning board took it, and they cut it right down, and so that is only commercial. And we met with Officer Scott, Jeff Scott too, and he had some concerns because he had worked at the one that this summer of what they had, concerns that he brought to Brian and I. So we have this new mass gathering, which I think I can speak for Brian in saying that we are very happy with. There's a couple of little places in it. One of them is agree and hire security guards, and we talked to someone, they said you ought to make sure they were licensed security guards, and we kind of agreed with that. And another spot we got here, it also said, in addition, all property owners within 200 feet must be notified. And that was suggested that we put 200 feet of the property line, because we had a huge, great big field. They could be in the center of it, and you would have 200-300 feet all around them. And so we thought if we added property line, it would clarify that very much. And otherwise than that, I think we all had a copy, and oh yeah, if vendors are to be used, contact needs to be made with the town clerk's office to obtain necessary permits. And in it, it also says, you know, the cleanup, the security guards, they have to check with the fire chief, they have to check with the police chief, and they have to approve this, that everything is okay before it can ever happen. And then those are the 2 people that have to do all the, you know, the policing and anything that may happen up there, fires or EMTs needed, and providing all those things.
Have all my colleagues read this?
Yeah, I read it. I just got one question, and maybe Chief Town can answer this. The security guard do they have a licensing process that they go through? And if that's the case, do they carry their own liability insurance? So that
Yeah, it would be independent of the town, obviously, it would be a private entity in itself. The issue that we had with the function that actually stimulated this whole conversation was they had their own security people, and we ended up dealing with the security people more than we did with the patrons that were at the function itself. So again, it still would come through me for approval, so I can have a yay or nay, likewise with the fire chief. So we can give it our blessing. If there's something there that we don't like, we can certainly say no.
But I mean, they do, I mean, as far as, I was trying to find, as far as, holding an insurance policy of some sort, would they be required to, get an insurance, something to cover the event, the person that was putting on the gathering?
I
I know the last event, they did insure themselves, and that was quite a costly event, process for them. As far as the security, if the company that provides it would have to be the one that would hold the insurance for that. I think you're talking about like, Securitas, there's different security companies that do, have professional security people.
I mean, as if you went and you approved the security people, and then, you know, Chief Plant approves, you know, the EMS and fire person, and then all of a sudden something happens, where they had your approval, I would have a concern where it would come back to the town.
I
That would
think
be
that
my only.
the permit process that the town gives requires the liability.
And this is gonna be on private property, it's not gonna be on town property.
Right, I'm just saying where they're getting involved, and it states here that the police chief will approve, will be approving the security guards, and then all of a sudden, the security guards get in a tussle with somebody, and there's a civil suit that takes place. Well, the police chief approved them, so.
Well, but
then-
you know, the police chief can say, I don't want security guards, I want my police officers up there. He has control of this.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why we put it in, that they had to get the permission from the fire chief and from the police. Dennis, do you have any questions on this?
No, not at all. I've read it over a couple times. and
Are
I
you
think
happy
makes-
with it?
You know, I think it makes sense. I think the town needs to move forward on that because it's just a matter of time. You've seen it already.
Tim, have you any problems with the way we've got this new one written?
No, in fact, Mr. Sincotta dropped it off for me a while ago, I've had a chance to look at it several times.
Brian, did you have something?
Well, just, you know, we never had an ordinance like this in Berwick. We never had an ordinance like this in Berwick, and I just felt, quite honestly that, it would be a good time, and that, we need it with the population growing and so forth. I thought it was good for the town.
And we did have an incident up there, where, not far from your house.
Yeah, well, then, yeah,
It didn't turn out what they wanted it to turn out, but it could have.
yeah.
Eleanor, the only question I have, and I think to protect the town as well as the police and fire, that a permit should be given.
Oh, what, from the
You
town?
know, from you two folks.
Oh, yeah,
As
they have.
opposed, I'm not talking about the permit that the town gives, I'm talking about, and simply, if you get into a tussle legally, you got something that works for both sides, actually.
Well, in this, it says they have to approve, they have to
I
approve
understand
everything.
that, but I
you
wanna
want
see it
that.
in writing.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, no problem.
The way I interpreted it, there was a sign-off area that if they come to us, they're gonna have to leave with us saying yes or no.
Yes.
Somewhere we would
Some,
sign that,
yeah,
that
some
document.
form of justification for that, yes, you can do whatever, or you can't.
And we also put in there that the person owning the land has to give a notarized thing that they own it and that they approve of what's happening. Remember last time there was a question, the person that owned the land didn't even know it was happening. So we wanted to make sure that, although I guess later on she did agree to it. We wanted to make sure that that didn't happen.
It looks pretty good to me, I guess the next,
Well, let's see what Bob, you know, we can add to it. Bob would like to put
Yeah.
that.
I'm just thinking it would be protective for both sides of the.
The only thing that
the
worries
fence.
me, if we get it too complicated, people will say it again.
No,
They don't
I'm not
understand
talking
it.
about that side of it, I'm talking about what is required of the statute that's putting it on.
Oh, okay. So you want us to make the separate, well, the town has to give a license. They have to give a license.
But that license should include a sign off by the fire chief and the police chief,
Oh, yeah,
you follow me?
yeah.
Not just the
Not
town
just-
clerk or town manager or
No,
whatever.
I
You
think it
know,
should be.
I think that's a reasonable request.
So did you wanna add what we kind of, the licensed security guards instead of just security guards? The board willing to
Yeah, I
add
think
that?
Tilton is, that's where, there's supposed to be a gonna have to sign his wife away anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah.
And now, like, the property line, you think we should add that part that says 200 feet from the property line?
No, abutters should be within 200 feet.
Well, I know, but it was brought up.
Abutters is the property line.
Well,
200
yeah,
feet.
I thought so too, but the person that told me, he said that what if Tibbetts is down there with that huge great big field, had one down in, and
But
butters
you-
within,
but
but there's
if
no
you-
butters within 200 feet.
Yes, you do have.
Well, yeah, well, I
It's
thought
that
that.
property line,
I thought that too, but the person that told me thought,
but it was incorrect.
okay.
Anything else?
And we did put 500 feet, but the planning board thought maybe we should have everything 200 feet, everything else in town is, and so. And I think they did a great job, and I really wanna thank them for the time that they put into this, and helping us get it down where I think it'll pass.
You know, we're
Yes, Brian.
certainly very concerned about people's, people wanting to have, you know, reunions and weddings. We were very sensitive to that when we put this together. And gave, you know, great consideration to that.
This is geared more to the commercial operation.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct, yes. So, there should be no fears of those other activities on the part of the people of Berlin.
And nonprofits, it doesn't affect the nonprofits either. I think there was a concern on, something that was on in Berlin, didn't this year, but using as trail riders, and a member of the town uses his field for them to camp overnight and everything, and he was kind of fearful of that, so that's taken care of, too, that doesn't, then that is completely nonprofit.
Yeah, I can take a couple questions, I guess, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's great that you're doing these ordinances a lot of other towns have. But I just recalling back 5 years ago, when I asked and needed, information from the floodplain ordinance and was told that the town didn't have one. So I'm just hoping that we can all remember 5 years from now that we have these ordinances.
Oh, there is a floodplain down there.
Oh, I know, I did find out, eventually, but when I needed it, when
They
my
just-
house was
they just-
destroyed,
they
I was
upgraded
told
it.
by the town manager we had no floodplain ordinance. So,
I can't vouch for that, but
I'm
all the
just-
thing I'm saying is they've just recently upgraded the floodplain layout for the town. That's done within, boy, I wanna say maybe this last 6 months or thereabouts.
it was quite a while before that.
I can assure you that we keep these ordinances all in one place, we know where they are. We don't have to start searching for draws and ordinances, we have them well organized.
Mrs. Lemay?
And where would that be?
In the office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeanette Lemay. I would recommend that you also put in language that allows Jerry or Dennis, Tim or Dennis to appoint somebody in the event that they're not available, because I'm sure they'd like to take a vacation every now and then. And if you write the language in there that it has to be the fire chief and it has to be the police chief, then that's what has to be done. So you need to have some other type of, language in there that allows for something else to happen in the event that Tim's in Hawaii,
Yeah, they have
or something like that.
They have to file 45 days ahead before it gets to the town anyway, so if they take vacation for 45 days at a time, we're not.
I just think you should cover yourself, Eleanor, and give yourself, I mean, you never know if something may happen, God forbid, I don't want anything to happen to either one of you, but, you may wanna cover yourself for that instance.
Good point.
Yeah,
Can we add another word in there, representative designee or something like that?
yeah,
I'll take one more.
a deputy.
Yes.
Yeah, Larry Rendell, I'm just curious, do you have a number of people that you have before you need this mass gathering permit?
175.
175?
Okay, Really, the next step is there's a couple changes to make. At some point, it'll go through a public hearing, and after that, there may be another change or two. But as far as I'm concerned, it should make it on the annual town meeting warrant. So, does the rest of the board agree with that?
That's good. You need a motion, or just, we just
No,
agree?
because we wait till after the public hearing.
Okay.
Make sure you fill in all the blanks, please.
I am, I written down everything you said.
Okay,
Thank you, board.
next new business, a fireworks ordinance. Fireworks ordinance.
Well, I, for one, am glad to see this.
And we have Chief Plant here, I guess I'd, let him have the floor for a couple of minutes.
The town manager had asked me after last selectmen's meeting, I guess it was brought up about a fireworks ordinance. Chief Town, about a week before that, had emailed me saying that, and I knew the state law in the state of Maine had changed. Some people think for the better, other people think that it's a bad mistake. We have a state rep here who asked me my opinion, and it was like, I have no real professional opinion about it. I can tell you that we need to look at it, and I gave the board a letter recently giving you some options. I guess what I would say at this point, option one is to adopt basically what the state of Maine has, which would allow certain size of fireworks to be used. If you do that, from a fire point of view, I suspect we're gonna run into an increased incident, injuries, fires. Can't say that for a fact, but when you start allowing the use of something that usually builds, and after talking with Chief Town, if we ban it, I think we've created another problem, because it's gonna create a nightmare for law enforcement. So, again, at his request, I've provided you with some information. If you give me some direction in Chief Town, we'll take a look at it, and we can do basically whatever the board would like to see.
What is the size of the firecracker?
I would have to ask that. I don't have that law in front of me, but there's a size limit, there's a diameter, maybe Chief Town would.
I'm not gonna speak to
Okay.
Trigger.
There is a size limit,
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, if we're talking about the 1-inch firecracker, or are we talking about a 5-inch firecracker?
Well, again-
What is that, the parameter?
off the top of my head, I'm gonna say it was, well, I don't wanna say this, so I'm not sure. I'd have to get that answer for you.
Okay.
The issue becomes, no matter what size it is, if we go with the state law, the potential of increased injury is there. We hope that all people have adults, kids have adults when they're using this, but they're gonna be readily available. As far as the land use, they'll be addressing it, I would assume, down the road, because you're gonna be able to sell those in town if that's approved. Or you can ban it, and then I guess law enforcement will have their hands full.
Well, I remember when we did have fireworks. And there were some children that were injured very seriously with it. And that's why I personally was glad when they were banned in the whole state of Maine.
Yeah,
And
it
it
made
upsets
it
me
easier.
that the state.
They
has
still
done this.
occur. Fireworks still go off every year. Chief will probably give you a complaints you've received. Fire department wise, over the last 6 years, we haven't received any reports of injuries. That doesn't mean they didn't occur,
But I guess my concern is, people are doing fireworks around the backyard, and they're all having a big barbecue and a few drinks, and there's little kids, they're not really watching them closely, and one of them, when they let, and I'm thinking the big things they let off, and they do. And, those kids can be injured very seriously for life,
absolutely.
and that concerns me.
Again, with whatever guidance you would like to give us, I'm sure we can, Chief, if you have anything you'd like to add, you're welcome.
We're gonna see, I think we'll see an increase regardless of what the town adopts. It's gonna be legal in some parts of the state, that where they're gonna be legal to obtain in portions of the state. So we're gonna see it regardless of having some control as opposed to no
They sell a
control.
lot of them across the bridge.
What do you two,
I can tell you, I've looked at a bunch of policies throughout the state, other ordinances that the communities have adopted. Some have done hard line, no fireworks, period. Others have given periods of time during the year, like Fourth of July, gave a window of time for community so that people could use them during that time. Those seem to be received fairly well, because you weren't saying.
Excuse me,
Go ahead.
you're talking about the hours of operation of fireworks, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying a period of time like the week of Fourth of July.
Oh, I
period.
see, number of days.
That way the fire chief can prepare for it, we know, cause that's when we're gonna receive the most complaints anyway.
Yeah.
That's when we normally get them. It'll reduce me chasing around fireworks for that week to follow me. And it gives the residents who like fireworks the opportunity, at least for that time of the year, to use them with the town's approval.
Okay, I imagine we can get copies of those.
Yep, I can do that.
How does it fall into, when you have a statewide that it's advertised now, it's out there, as of, January 1st, everything, it's a go. Doesn't that means that's gonna make a nightmare for you, because they can go to North Berwick and now you're talking the borders, you got boundaries back and forth where you go to somebody and, well, I just picked them up over here, I came down here and I'm using them.
It does, we're dealing with the same issue with the medical marijuana, it's a big quagmire, to be quite truthful with you. Yeah, people could buy fireworks, I might encounter those fireworks passing through the town of Berwick. Are the people gonna use them in Berwick? Probably not, maybe they're headed to Wells where it's legal. I mean, that's all stuff that we'll have to sort through, basically on the side of the road or in somebody's backyard, I guess. But it is here, so, January 1st.
Now, can they have fireworks in New Hampshire?
Yeah.
That's why every 4th of July you hear them across the river.
Yeah, that's why
Well, I can't see them on my river.
That's why usually every Fourth of July, state fire
Thank you, both chiefs, thank you. Should I see Representative O'Connor? Beth, could you tell us why they passed this new state law?
Yeah, we passed it because across statewide, there were many people coming into the state with fireworks. They weren't buying them here, they were transporting them here, they were still using them. One of the major reasons we did pass it was because we wanted there's a significant licensing fee to be able to sell them here in the state of Maine. It's, I'm not sure of the exact amount, but it's significant. And included in that is an educational piece to be used for, to statewide, and do television and radio, with the dangers, and there'll be, virtually, we were able to educate the populace on the use of fireworks, and we didn't have that opportunity before. So, and it's also so that we get the revenue. And there's been significant problems along the state lines where fireworks are legal. So we figured we'd have more control if they were legal in the state and be able to control, what was coming in. Does that answer your question?
Yes. That's fine, thank you.
Anything else?
Chief?
Well, I think, Beth, I'd just like to say that a few children get injured real seriously, their face burnt, blind. What do you think that's gonna cost the state? At that time, the parents probably don't have the money to help these kids.
I understand that, and many children are hurt as it stands while they're illegal. And if they're legal.
Well, I haven't heard of any children in the state of Maine since they've been illegal in Maine.
They were
I'm
illegal
sure
this summer.
it may have happened, but I don't believe it.
They were illegal this year, and there were accidents this year.
Where were the accidents? I never read about them in the Maine paper.
In Portland. So, I really hope that we can work on the educational piece for this, and I do think that we should, as a town, have some control over what happens, and I was really concerned, I know when I first moved to Berwick, I was invited to a party, and I won't see where that was, but there was a smorgasbord of fireworks, and I thought they were legal here in Maine, and, the people were.
They've been illegal for a long time.
I didn't know that one, it was 9 years ago, and I thought they were legal at that time, and then I found out they weren't, and I was very concerned with that. very glad, that we have the educational piece and that the licensing fees for this are very high.
No, I just hope it works.
I hope so as well.
I doubt it.
Thank you.
Certainly.
I was just gonna say, licensing fee is $5,000 a year.
Who wants to sell? To sell.
And that's 1,500 for each annual license renewal.
Maybe it should be, no, well, let's, but if they renew it, only 1,500.
Yeah, I think it's $5,000 to start.
Yeah.
Would you say 1,500?
It's $5,000 for the initial license issued to an applicant and 1,500 for each annual license renewals. They do also have a time frame of when they can be utilized, fireworks from the hours of 9 AM to 10 PM. It's set that on the following dates that may be used between the hours of 9 AM and 12:30 AM. And that's the 4th of July, December 31st, and the weekends immediately before and after the 4th, and December 31st.
And we probably ought to think about New Year's Eve.
No, the chief laid out, the fire chief has laid out, basically 3 options that we should consider. So, let's think on it and, maybe act on it at the next meeting. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, well, I'd like to get some of the other, what the other towns have done, so they have their ordinances to read through and get maybe ideas from. And, and I think we have got a lot of things here. I don't know if we can pass it next meeting, because we got storage and handling. I think we want to take consideration into that. And,
Maybe we can get.
I think there's a lot to this. I
Maybe we
really
can
do.
get some more information on this, address that,
And I think maybe that we should sit down with the 2 chiefs and get their input read into our policy, our ordinance, whatever we're gonna call it.
Okay.
'Cause I think this is real serious. I'm sorry, I don't know how anyone else feels, but I was upset when the state passed it, very upset.
Okay, is there anything else that you might have on the new business? Okay, abatements and supplementals. Before we start, has everyone looked at them? Get their questions answered?
I went in and met with the assessors and went over a few things.
I had a question on one of them, and I got my question answered. These the original? What you got?
I have a copy, but you can sign those, that's fine.
Okay.
You want me to read these, or are you gonna read it? Or do you wanna do it?
You can read them if you like. Or if you want me to, I will.
It doesn't matter, the first one's a personal property on business equipment. The reason for the request is the applicant's belief that the assessment exceeds the amount stated in a declaration form due to incorrect number of items listed in the assessment. There were 4 listed and there evidently were only 2 on site. It's rented material, leased equipment. After review of the declaration in the property account, it was determined that the number of items should be corrected from 4 to 2. After correction, the assessment decreased $68,410 from $145,279 to $76,869, and it is recommended that an abatement in the amount of $978.26 be granted.
This seems to be straightforward. They're assessed for 4 items and they only had 2. Personal property.
I move it be adjusted.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
The next one is a mobile home on a .28 acre parcel. Reason for the request is the owner's belief that the property was incorrectly listed as a double-wide mobile home and overall assessed value. The The property was inspected and it was determined that the building is a single wide mobile. Also noted were corrections to the sketch. After adjustments, the assessment is reduced $10,200 from $103,600 to $93,400. The revised assessment is supported by sales of similar homes when the town's assessment ratio is considered. It is recommended that an abatement in the amount of $145.06 be granted.
Move the recommendation be passed.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? We'll send it back that way.
The next one is a two-family conversion style dwelling on a 1.5 acre parcel. The reason for the request is the owner believes the property is overassessed as compared to an appraisal dated June 18, 2000, with an indicated value of $165,000. I inspected the property, and from the inspection, it revealed that the exterior is in average condition. However, the interior is dated and in poor condition. It is my opinion that the overall condition is overstated and an adjustment is appropriate. After corrections, the assessment decreased $43,600 from $218,800 to $175,200. As such, it is recommended that an abatement in the amount of $623.48 be granted.
One second.
Discussion? All in favor? You sign?
Yep.
The last one is a two-family conversion type dwelling on a .12 acre parcel. The reason for the request is there is incorrect land use coding. Upon review, it was found that my associate had reviewed the information and determined that in fact it was a two-family, not a three-family property. An adjustment to the occupancy was previously made, however, inadvertently, the land use code had not been corrected. When the correction is made, the assessment is reduced $7,000 from $215,700 to $208,700 as a result of the building size factor change. As such, it is recommended that an abatement in the amount of $100.10 plus any applicable interest be granted.
I would like to explain this one, because it is my property. In 203, we made it from a 3-apartment to a 2-apartment. It had just a little kitchenette apartment upstairs and back. And I went in and checked, and it was still listed as 3. I kept going, finally the town manager went in. I did not ask for this abatement. If I get it, I will give it to the association to help with their fuel this winter, because I did not go in. But if you want to refuse this abatement, please feel free to do it.
The abatement, I would recommend be granted only because it was a fallacy in
It
the.
took me 8 years to get it back into the letter, right behind it, 8 years.
But you're the chairman,
Well,
and you got it done.
I was a little upset when I came in and, 8 years later, and it's still a 3-apartment, and it's not.
Motion made to accept the abatement.
Second.
All in favor? Abstain? Opposed?
Yes.
Opposed? Alan, opposed?
But I am gonna donate to the fuel fund at the, association.
You oppose your abatement. I don't want to hear any more about it.
Because I didn't ask for the abatement, I didn't even put it in.
I
Town manager
understand
did.
that. Sympathize with the agreement.
What agency has down here?
Sorry to render it out. I don't know what
You stand corrected, that's the personal property.
What's your other one? Where's mine?
Bob had already signed it all.
I didn't sign mine, maybe. I know it, but
Yes, she can, she's gonna sign it, it's denied.
No, she couldn't sign it all.
which one is it?
Hers is U484.
Yeah. Because I've signed every one of them.
Well, here, I got another copy.
You can sign your own.
I don't want to.
Janet, look at these,
Cross my name.
I don't mind signing, but she shouldn't. And you had the one that she signed, but she shouldn't have.
Well, I'm not.
Get it, Bob.
You know, if you read what you were signing, you would know.
We hadn't come to it yet. I handed them out.
Oh,
We hadn't come to it.
Okay, of course you need my own.
If I'd asked for it, they'd do the story.
I didn't do
okay,
it.
public comment.
Madam,
Yes, I can have it.
Please, I'm not ready yet.
I'm ready. I'm gonna ask you a question. Yeah.
Right here in front. Your name, please?
Jody Wright, I read in the newspaper, that there's a recall petition going on for 3 of you. So my question as a potential signer of the 3 petitions is, why shouldn't I sign the petition? For each individual one, and that would be you, Cameron Ramsey, Joe Chambers, and Marcia. Why shouldn't I sign? I haven't signed anything.
Not sure if you wanna go there or not. I will say on my behalf, I stated in the newspaper, I've done nothing egregious or that terribly wrong where I should even be considered for recall. Marcia, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, people's option to do what they choose.
Joe? What do you have?
And I'd like to ask another question. I wanna know, I know that you said in the past, all 3 of you, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you signed the Bateman lease because the voters voted on that in 2009, and you were honoring that vote. I wanna know why 300+ people were at your meeting and you didn't listen to public opinion.
We covered that thoroughly, everything. And I don't think there's any good to rehash the whole issue at this point.
It's an issue to me as a resident, considering
Just public comment.
signing the petition.
It's just public comment, so.
Okay.
I'll tell you my reason. There was a lot of false information given, some of it by you. You continually said it was low income, it was bad for the town, that we were practically gonna give apartments to people sleeping on benches. And it's not, it's median income. You either have to be a working person, and if I remember, it's 31,000 and some hundred to be eligible for a one-bedroom. Or if you're retired, you have to have at least that income. And it's not what you people have been telling all over town. It's never been a low-income project. And I'll agree with you, some of those projects have been bad, but this is not one of them.
But Nathan Bateman got up and made the statement that if somebody came with a section 8, he had to let correct to him. It's a federal law, they cannot refuse.
That's right, but every area is limited to a certain number of section 8s. And this area is full. The only ones that could go in are ones that are somewhere else right now and move and bring their section 8 with them.
I'll go under bridges and pull in as many people as I can to get in that building. That's not the point. I don't care what type of people are gonna go in the housing. What I care about is what you people representing us did for our community. And that's what I'm asking you. The bottom line is
that's
simple.
a good project for our community.
How is that a good
I look
project
on it
economically
as a project
and socially?
like Applegate, which has always been well in town.
Applegate is not a town-owned building, is it?
No.
Am I correct?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so
That was
with
built
our
by a
town
developer.
building, with our 10 acres of land, how does that benefit Berwick? How does that benefit me, a taxpayer? How does that
It puts a lot
benefit a
more-
taxpayer that
It
just,
puts a lot more money on the tax rolls. That's the
Okay.
benefit to the town.
my granddaughter sitting right over here is in the distinctive range in the educational thing over here at Vivian Hussey. What do you people do when there's 100+ possibly new kids coming into a school, which I believe, I was told last week, SAD 60, our school is the highest populated school in the district, Vivian Hussey. So what do you people propose to do for me with my granddaughter having educational needs that probably really aren't being met the way I'd like to see them being met, because we're overcrowded, and now you're bringing in 100+
Where are the
children?
100+ children?
34.
21 of the 34 are one bedroom. There can't be any other children in those units. There's only, 13 units that would even be eligible for a 2-bedroom.
Can I ask this then?
Marsha, you've done a good job of explaining it.
Yes, you've done a beautiful job.
Let's move on.
Okay, I got another question.
Let's move on, you're taking up other people's time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go,
Okay, 9 Rochester Street. Joe, this is to you, because you did sign Bateman Partners when I called you and asked you to at least delay your signing. I said, let us have time to equip you with numbers that would change your mind on signing, but you didn't, you signed it. So now my question to you is, why is 9 Rochester Street so important to you that you cannot give it back to this town after pretty much taking it from the I'm not being a wise guy, Joe, because I have not signed, anyone who has petitions here, they'll tell you I haven't signed a petition, and I'm really thinking this out, why I should or should not sign a petition.
I do not own 9 Rochester Street.
It's Tennessee and Common, and unless you sold it, Joe.
This is public comment time.
You no longer own 9 Rochester
Never
Street?
did.
His wife.
Tennis in common in the state of Maine.
No, it's not.
Okay, so, for the sake,
We gotta get some other people here.
I don't appreciate when you do not like the question that you get shortchanged. I haven't
I
spoken.
wanna give other people a chance to speak.
She can speak for me, she doesn't like
For the sake
Okay,
of,
you got another question? One more question.
for the sake of historic preservation, for the building over there, for the sake of historic preservation, you have created historic ruination for this town. For all the kids, for all the grandchildren, and for all the buses that are gonna bus those kids to that school.
Any other comment?
I've been working for over 5 years to try to get my, on Rochester Street where it floods yearly, mitigated. I have insurance, and there's a provision in the insurance that would pay up to $30,000. It took me 3.5 years to get a letter from the town to get that provision from my own insurance. And now I was told that wouldn't maybe not be enough to mitigate the house, so I tried for a grant, which I tried for a grant, but for some reason the town doesn't get any grants for any of fixing their buildings, but that's a whole nother subject. But anyway, so I'm just wondering, why have I been spending, I spend holidays, I haven't seen my kids, my grandkids, I do this every day, and I'm gonna be homeless soon, but yet you're working so hard to get people from other states, towns, and everything for renters. You don't want the residents that, I've been paying taxes for 17 years. And I haven't gotten any help from this town.
All I can say is I know Keith was fully involved in your case, and he would be the person to answer.
Keith does not return calls. Keith doesn't, okay, maybe I'm confused, but I thought you hired Keith. Don't you hire Keith?
I believe Keith was, he was very involved in your case. That's what I heard from him. But he's not here, so he can't.
Of course, that's what, yeah, that's what you heard from him.
He can't tell us
Yeah.
what he went through and what you went through.
Well, I didn't even need it,
None of us were involved.
I didn't even need an answer from you, I wanted to let you all know that taxpayers, there was, on those 2 floods, there was at least 17 people on each list that were affected, and there were the same people on both lists. And, the house across the street from me, she got moved out the year before, she passed away, she never got to go back home, and that house has been abandoned since. It will never be sold, nobody would ever buy it. And there's another house that's down Hubbard Road that was on the river, and somebody, forgetting who they were talking to, said to me, well, what did they expect? They bought a house on the river. You know, this was in the town office, said this to me. So, you know, flood policy, plain ordinance is important, and it needs to be addressed, that's all, you know. It's getting worse, and like you said, the maps are coming out, there's gonna be more people that are gonna be put in flood zones, and, they're gonna be coming.
Do you have car insurance?
I do. Yes, yep. But there's gonna be people, a lot more people coming to the town looking for answers, and, they don't have them. So.
All you do is pay them off.
Anyone else? Mrs. Wheeler?
I just want to clarify Dave Stolpe's question to make sure we're all clear what it was we were hoping to have you ask of our lawyer, Alan Shepard, is just to clarify that last paragraph with a distinctive, were you in violation of your code of ethics, yay or nay? I think it seemed as though somebody was confused about that, wanted us to write it down, or I don't think it's confusing. I think specifically that would be the question that we would like to ask of our lawyer, because that specific question isn't answered.
We'll address that when he gets back.
Thank you.
Back Monday. Mr.
George Murphy, 27 Nutella Lane. For too many years now, I've seen, as you admit here tonight, Mr. Chairman, violations of policies. I've seen bias. I've seen a lack of regard for what the people in Berwick are looking for and want. And ultimately by the board members defending their actions, which are quite scrupulous if you ask me, it's quite clear that what I need to do, and what I needed to do was to go out and collect signatures to start the recall process. I'm holding a folder. I don't have quite the signatures yet for each and every one of you, but my guesstimate is by the end of the week, just in my folder alone, and this is a collaborative effort. There's a lot of people involved, and you'll see with the signatures. My question to the three board members, instead of dragging the town through any more embarrassment, instead of putting through the people through any more cost, I mean, look at the legal fees that you've spent from the poor decisions that you've made over the past 3 years. My question to the three board members are, I think it would be of good character if all three of you resigned. And are any one of you willing to do that?
I'm not.
Shame on you.
Any more questions?
You were all aware of what was going on, you all received a packet. And I had to go to Washington. Washington had to write Keith a letter in order to be able to file a claim for my insurance. And that was all in the packet that you received.
But you had flood insurance and they wouldn't pay you? Is that what
They
you're
paid
saying?
the flood insurance, but there's an added provision to mitigate, which means elevate it,
Right.
make it safe, which right now for the last 5 years, I have not been safe. It rains and I'm under the covers shaking every time it rains. Every single year since 2006, that road has been closed and flooded. So,
How about the other house? Isn't Oscar Stone?
he's down away from me. What does that got to do with it?
He's right on the bend of the river, doesn't he?
What does that got to do with it? Does that mean I'm not getting?
No, I just wonder how many other houses flood. If yours
It's
does,
the
don't
whole area
alarm.
from Hall Brothers to the, town barn. Actually, a little path.
Marcia, I believe Keith has a decent sized file on this whole map.
Okay. Yeah, well,
Anyways, I didn't,
There's no more answers to your question.
there's no more answers to my question.
You got another question?
No, I don't, but I do have a comment. I'm gonna take great pleasure working hard gathering those signatures to oust you out of your seat.
big pictures.
Mrs. Lemay.
Thank you. I was listening to people when they were talking in regards to the letter from the AG's office on October 24th and Attorney Shepherd's answer. Do you want to go over here? I wanna feel bad, you have to bend around the corner there. And Attorney Shepherd's answer. Having dealt with Attorney Shepherd before, he kind of goes round and round and round. And it seems to me that people are very, very confused. And I would like to recommend, instead of having people write down their questions, going to Keith, having him go to Alan, Alan getting back to you, you getting back to those people, to have Alan come here, have your constituents answered directly. I really think that that would be a big plus for people, instead of going round and round and round. The second thing is, and I gotta say, Jim, I was very happy that you started writing down some things that Lana was saying. One of the biggest problems since I've been dealing with the town has been, and I've been doing this since 2004, has been people not getting answers. Okay, the town manager is your employee. You hire him. You are our first defense. I have heard time and time and time again, people asking for help, phone calls not being returned. I have a lady I've been emailing regularly, she can't get an answer on her taxes. I've had a lady who had a shed that she was told she lied on, she had no idea what was going on. I called Keith, Keith said whatever Jimmy said, I called Jim, I said what's going on. I went after 7 document, researches, finally found it on the original documents on the very bottom in very tiny letters. I think that a lot of disconnect that's going on here has a lot to do with the way people are being treated. I think you guys need to get that under control. There's many, many times I hear, well, I went there and they said, no, go see this person, or no, go see that person. And if y'all remember, that's how the BCC started, because they kept getting the runaround. I think it would benefit everyone in this town to get some customer help going on. I know that Keith has a big file on this whole flood thing, but I have heard it time and time and time again from so many different people. There was a lady with a pool just a month ago. Doesn't understand why she's being told to take it down. Just got this nasty letter in the mail. Can't get an answer. And to me, that's really, really sad. Thank you.
And wrap this up, a couple more,
Andrew. I'd just like to say that you people were all elected, and you need to examine your consciences and do what's right for the town.
Mr. Stobie, one more.
Oh, we have all the time in the world. As far as the Bateman project goes, just to clarify a few things, we worked it out statistically when we sat in there with 300 people in front of you, that for that project over there, statistically, we're gonna have between 22 and 28 children from that project now, because it's not elderly housing. So at $8,400 per student, going to our overcrowded school now, what is the amount of taxes that we are gonna get back from that project that makes this project worthwhile? You seem to know, could I ask Marcia, what good is this for our community?
I think your number is way high.
Could I ask Marcia?
Well, I'll answer the question. I think your number is way high, and straight from, Paul Andre, the superintendent of the school system, he could easily handle that many students without any increase in taxes.
I don't think you like but if they happen to be all in one class or something, it would need more staff, more teachers, another room, was what he also put in that letter.
That's right.
Chance of 28 men going in one class.
And the price per student hasn't come down, or is he giving them those for free?
And I understand we're gonna make about $30,000 in taxes.
So we're gonna get $30,000 in taxes, but our rate's gonna go up because our share of the school system is going way up. Is that correct?
We're gonna get $1 a year for the lease.
That's
To add
correct,
that
though.
on to 30,000, which we should be getting part of the profit, I think, percentage.
So we're gonna spend more than the $30,000 that we're gonna take in as a community to educate the students just in that one building. Correct?
There may be no
Mathematics.
maybe there'll be no kids there. Did you ever think of that?
No, not likely. These are just statistics.
I doubt there will be
average. And see, and that's why people are signing petitions, because you don't wanna listen. We went to the voting booth in 2009 to vote for that with your recommendation, because we thought it was gonna be elderly housing, on your recommendation.
It was never said to be elderly, never.
I understand. The miscommunication led us to vote for that on your recommendation. And 300 people showed up upstairs to tell you that we made a mistake. The mistake we made was to listen to you.
There was a lawyer in town that told me that he went and voted in 2009 because he thought it was senior housing. And I did the same thing, and I admit, I didn't know what I was voting on, and that really hurts.
And for you not to listen to your constituents when they tell you flat out, we made a mistake by listening to you, and you passed it anyway.
And I still, when I voted, did not know, I thought it was land under the building. I didn't know it was 10.3 acres, the whole area under our police station and everything. That I did not know.
A lot of us didn't know that, but the more information we got led us to believe that it was a mistake and should be looked into further. On one note, because of that, I missed the report of the committees. Did we have the committee for our community center meet?
No.
Do we have a chair?
Yes,
And who is that?
that's currently me.
That's currently you?
That's what I thought.
When was the last time you met?
Some time ago.
I have no record.
He's never done
There hasn't been anything really to meet about. Trying to get the roof fixed.
If you were to meet, because of the Bateman project, could we even occupy that space over there anymore? Are we allowed to, in the parking lot, can we build a 10-foot by 12-foot garage next to the building for storage? No, we can't do anything.
We can't increase the footprint.
We can't even occupy it because that messes up your square foot.
No, we can't occupy it.
Can you find that out for sure? Ask our lawyer, because that's not true.
It is true. He stated it many times.
Keith is not a lawyer. And
The lawyer
it worked out
stated
by
it.
his
The
square
lawyer
footage.
stated it also.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Can I finish? You worked out the square footage of that with our town engineer to say that our police department only occupied 5,000 square feet of that whole entire project. When just the half of the building that occupies our police station is 28,000 square feet, not including anything else. If you mess with that footprint at all, we can't occupy that building. So we're not gonna have a community center because of what you voted for.
That 5,000.
Can we find that out in 2 weeks?
That's been a
5,000 square feet is in addition to the footprint.
It is not.
Well, I'm sorry.
It is not. The
That's-
building, you have a map that shows that building is constituted as 5,000 square feet.
No,
There's more room than that
over
in the attic.
28,000.
It's 5,000 for the
5,000
use.
In addition.
It's 5,000 constituted square footage because
No,
of the usage.
Right.
But the minute you occupy a community center, you've messed that up. Is that a question we can ask our lawyer
Or the planning board.
or the planning board to look into? That the community center that some of us have dreamed about
Questions
doing,
it's already been answered by the.
it has not.
Where would we find that answer, Jim?
Where is it?
Is that?
Where would that answer be? Because nobody here has
It
seen
was
it.
when he was, one of our meetings, I believe.
Could we have our lawyer send us a little email reminder of what he said?
I guess.
He's our lawyer. Thank you. I'm frustrated enough.
Mr. Rendell.
Yeah, Larry Rendell. This lady was talking about the Vivian Hussey School and something just come to mind. That building over there, they're saying could house, I don't know how many kids. There is some projects on the plate that ain't been started. I have a 95 unit mobile home park that's supposed to go in behind my house, which is 55 and older, but the occupants can be kids. So 95 times 2, and then you have another project at the Hussey Farm. I think that's 12 units times 2, there's another 24 kids. Approximately 3 weeks ago, they had an open house or something. I couldn't even get out of my driveway. I took several pictures, so
Me too.
I think we ought to think about that Hussey School being overcrowded. You talk about mass gatherings. You couldn't have got a fire truck down through there or a fire truck come in that circle 3 weeks ago I don't know if I still have the pictures on my camera, but I took 25, 26, I could not believe it. I just wanted you to know that, and sometimes when the kids are being taken to school and dropped and picked up, I've seen times when they've needed a police officer down there to direct traffic. So, you know, it's nothing with you people, but I think everybody in this room ought to keep this in mind next time they wanna put up another big project in town, because, I live there, and I
You
couldn't
know,
get out of my
Larry,
truck.
you're absolutely right. For last year, I used to take my little great-granddaughter to school in the morning when her dad had to go on a different shift. And in the first morning, I was up by Doucette's park getting into that school. Well, the next morning, I timed it, so I was a little later getting there. But I was shocked and you're absolutely right, that they parked the whole length of that street from the corner down.
And I have one other question. This summer they put up,
Curbs.
curbing to keep the cars off the lawn. So now I just want you to know that they're in the road more.
That's right.
And when they park on both sides, that's all I wanted to say.
Two more quick ones, that's it.
I didn't hear you. Chairman Ramsey, I did not hear you. What did
I
you say?
said two more quick ones.
Oh, okay, good. Joe,
I only see two more hands, so.
I read in the paper today that there were some possessions of the man that lived at 9 Rochester Street. Even the Germans in World War II let the Jewish people at the beginning of the war take some of their possessions out of their homes. Could I ask you to give this man, whoever he is, I've never met him, just saw his name in the paper today, could you give him back his possessions from his home? Out of the goodness of your heart, Joe?
He had no possessions there, he never lived there.
You don't own them, what were you doing there anyway? Said you didn't own a house.
Jim, I'm done with this.
You're gonna wrap it up? Derek,
If you don't mind.
let Derek go.
Listen to everybody here, and watching the reaction from some of you up there, and I'm not gonna attack any of them at all, because there's people in this room that voted these people in, and the people in this room and in this town can vote them out. And that's the process that's getting involved right now. The thing that disturbed me the most is when the policy and procedure was talked about, the face that you made. Now, I've been in the military for 17 years. We operate on policy and procedure. I invented policy and procedures, especially for BCTV. I know cops, firefighters, they follow SOPs, operating instructions. They don't follow them, people die. Okay? Now, when you make a face or a comment about a policy and you don't follow it, that's wrong. Definitely wrong. Code of ethics is something you have to follow. If you guys don't follow a code of ethics, your leadership is done. You have no leadership. Your ethical leadership is gone. So when you see everybody here upset, distraught, that you guys aren't doing your jobs, think about that. You're leaders of this town, and you basically hammered everybody here. So integrity is huge. Integrity with you guys are gone. That's sad. But process is in place, and everybody here gets to vote you out. So that's all I got to say.
Do I still get to ask my question? I actually, about the community center, I had actually talked to Bob about that committee this week, and he thought somebody else had been appointed chair. I think, I'd like to see that committee have the opportunity to meet. There's a lot of community spirit behind that effort that some of us would like to foster and try to rebuild what's been damaged in this community. So if you don't see any purpose in it meeting, there might be people who would like to foster that relationship, go to the planning board and talk to them. The 5,000 square foot is for the use of the police department. The problem with what you did was you used up every square inch of the use allowed to that property. I have talked to planning board members about it, and there is a problem with that. Putting another use on that property is a problem. And we need to talk to them about it and figure out whether it's an opportunity or not. If you're not interested in doing it, I would, and Bob thought you'd already done this, turn the chair over to somebody else who will at least let that committee meet and decide if we can take advantage of the people who are willing to do it. I mean, if you put people on a committee and then never meet, That's just not fair. I think those people would like to have the opportunity to do something positive in the community.
Okay, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
When he's done.
Wait a minute. Mr. Chair, we were still discussing that, and once again, like the lady said, you didn't answer her. What's the answer? Are you willing to step down as chair and find somebody?
Public comment. Well noted.
It's not a public answer, Dave.
But not answered.
I already have a motion and I have a second.
From the three amigos. They're done.
Thanks, Dave.
Sure do.
I did it,
Jody, did you make up your mind tonight?
just like they did when they signed the.
There you go. Sign away, baby.
You demonstrated that.
Bye, you guys.
If we all had iron shades. It's a good growing experience.
It certainly is, but it should get an award.